Have you ever felt like a small, fragile wave fighting against a merciless ocean? A separate mind trapped inside your skull, staring out at a world that feels indifferent, chaotic, and sometimes hostile. Here at Stoic Lighthouse, we don't chase quick fixes or empty promises. We seek clarity, direction, and inner calm in a chaotic world. That feeling of separation, of me in here versus the world out there, is the quiet root of anxiety. It fuels loneliness. It sharpens fear. It convinces you that you are isolated in a vast and impersonal universe. But what if that separation is the illusion? What if you are not the wave struggling against the ocean, but the ocean itself in motion? 2,000 years ago, the Stoics did not speak of non-duality in mystical language. They spoke of logos, of sympatheia, of a living cosmos where everything is interwoven in one rational, breathing whole. Marcus Aurelios reflected on this truth during moments of deep solitude, reminding himself that what appears divided is, at its core, unified. He wrote, "There is one light of the sun, though it is interrupted by walls, mountains, and countless obstacles. There is one common substance, though it is distributed among countless individual bodies." Today we explore a radical shift in perception, a shift that dissolves anxiety not by controlling the world, but by understanding your place within it. By the end of this reflection, the idea of loneliness may feel fundamentally different, not because your circumstances change, but because your identity does. Number 1. The great illusion, the isolated ego versus the living cosmos. From childhood, you were taught to think of yourself as a separate unit. Your body ends at your skin. Your thoughts are yours alone. The world exists out there. This invisible boundary feels obvious. It feels undeniable. But the Stoics believed this boundary is the source of nearly all psychological suffering. When you see yourself as a detached fragment in a cold universe, everything becomes a threat. The future becomes dangerous. Other people become competitors. Nature becomes an obstacle. But the Stoics did not see the universe as a pile of dead matter drifting through empty space. They saw it as a living, rational organism, a unified, intelligent whole. They called this living order the cosmos. And the intelligence that animates it, the logos. Think about your own body. Your cells are not independent citizens negotiating survival contracts. They are expressions of one life. Your heart does not compete with your lungs. Your hands do not rebel against your eyes. Each part functions because it belongs to something greater. To the Stoics, you relate to the universe the way a cell relates to the body. Marcus Aurelios made a subtle but powerful distinction in his private writings. He reminded himself not to think of himself merely as a part of the universe, but as a member of it. He wrote, "If you think of yourself as a mere part, you will not yet love others from the heart. But if you see yourself as a limb of the whole, you will understand that what harms the whole harms you. A part can be replaced. A limb is organic, alive, inseparable. This shift changes everything. If you are merely a part, you can be cut off, discarded, forgotten. But if you are a living member of a living cosmos, then nothing that happens is outside of you. Nothing is foreign." Alan Watts later expressed this same insight in modern language. "You do not come into this world. You come out of it, as a leaf comes out of a tree. You are not dropped into reality. You are an event within it. When you breathe, the universe is breathing in that form. When you think, the logos is thinking through your nervous system. The anxiety of facing the world begins to dissolve when you realize there is no confrontation happening. There is only the whole, expressing itself in countless temporary shapes. If this way of seeing life is resonating with you, it's because you're not just looking for external answers. You're trying to live with more awareness. This channel exists for exactly that reason. The moment you stop seeing yourself as an isolated, ego-fighting existence, something softens. The world stops being an enemy. It becomes a process, and you are not separate from it. Number 2, Sympatheia, the hidden thread connecting all things. If you are a living member of a living cosmos, then your relationships are not accidental. They are structural. The Stoics had a word for this invisible architecture of connection, sympatheia. It does not mean kindness in the modern sense. It means to feel together. It describes a universe so deeply interwoven that nothing exists in isolation. Pull one thread and the entire fabric moves. Marcus Aurelios governed an empire, commanded armies, and held power over millions. Yet he reminded himself daily that harming another human being was not merely unjust, it was irrational. He wrote, "We were born for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature. Imagine your left hand cutting your right hand. Who suffers? Not the left, not the right, the whole body." For the Stoic, resentment, cruelty, envy, and hatred are forms of internal self-injury. They feel justified only because we mistake separate bodies for separate beings. But if reality is unified, then hostility becomes confusion. Modern language has rediscovered this insight. The Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh used the word interbeing to describe the same principle. He taught, "You are not separate from anything. You are made of everything." Look at a tree. Its oxygen becomes your breath becomes its carbon dioxide. Where do you end and it begin? Sympatheia transforms ethics from obligation into recognition. You do not treat others well because a rulebook says so. You do it because at the deepest level, there are no others. Loneliness begins to weaken under this view. The person in front of you is not a stranger in a foreign universe. They are another expression of the same underlying life. And if that is true, then isolation is not a fact, it is a perception. The more clearly you see the web, the harder it becomes to feel alone inside it. Number 3, the view from above. Shrinking the ego, expanding the mind. Understanding unity intellectually is powerful. Experiencing it is transformative. The Stoics developed a practical mental exercise to dissolve the illusion of separateness. It was later called the view from above. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine rising above your body. Above the room you're in, above your neighborhood, now rise higher. See your city from the sky. The traffic that felt overwhelming becomes tiny lines of light. The arguments, the deadlines, the unfinished emails shrink into invisibility. Go higher still. See your country, then the continent, then the earth itself suspended in vast darkness, a fragile blue sphere turning silently in space. From here, borders disappear, political divisions vanish. The idea of us versus them looks absurd. Marcus Aurelios used this perspective to weaken his ego and calm his anxieties. He wrote, "Reflect often on the whole of time and the whole of substance, and consider that all individual things are but a tiny fraction of the whole. From this height, your personal dramas do not feel meaningless, they feel contextualized. You are still important, but not central, and paradoxically, that realization brings relief. The pressure to control everything softens when you see how small your control actually is. The fear of losing status weakens when you see how brief status has always been." Carl Sagan captured this same feeling when describing the famous image of Earth as a pale blue dot. He said, "Look again at that dot. That's here, that's home, that's us. On that dot, every ambition, every war, every love story, every fear has unfolded. The view from above does not erase your individuality, it refines it. You return from the exercise quieter, less reactive, less defensive, more aligned. Your problems may still exist, but they no longer define the horizon of your awareness. And in that expanded awareness, the isolated ego loses its grip." Number 4, Amor Fati. When you stop fighting reality. Most suffering does not come from events, it comes from resistance. We want the sun, it rains. We want health, the body weakens. We want permanence, everything changes. In this tension, we create a split. Me versus what is happening. This is the most common form of duality. The Stoic answer was not passive acceptance. It was something far more radical, Amor Fati. Not tolerating fate, not surviving fate, loving fate. Epictetus gave the formula with startling precision. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do happen, and your life will flow well. Read that again carefully. When you demand reality match your preferences, you declare war on the universe. When you align your preferences with reality, the war ends. And when the war ends, peace is immediate. This is not weakness. It is strategic surrender. A surfer does not control the wave. He becomes skillful by aligning with it. The moment he fights it, he falls. Amor Fati is existential surfing. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? You start asking, how is this necessary within the whole? When you adopt this stance, something profound shifts. Loss becomes instruction. Pain becomes refinement. Uncertainty becomes movement. You are no longer a fragile ego resisting chaos. You are a conscious participant in a vast unfolding order. Marcus Aurelios reminded himself constantly that whatever happens is woven into the fabric of the cosmos. He wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs." When you love fate, you dissolve the final boundary. There is no longer your will and the universe's will. There is only one movement, and you are it. We began with the image of a lonely wave fighting the ocean. Now you can see the deeper truth. The wave was never separate from the sea. It was the sea taking temporary form. Anxiety weakens when separation dissolves. Loneliness fades when connection becomes structural. Resistance softens when you understand that what happens is not against you, but within you. Sympatheia reveals the hidden unity. The view from above humbles the ego. Amor Fati aligns your will with reality itself. When you stop fighting existence, you stop fragmenting yourself. Here is the essence of everything we explored. Peace begins the moment you stop seeing yourself as separate from what is happening. If this reflection stayed with you, consider subscribing and continuing this journey with our community. Let Stoic Lighthouse guide you toward calm, clarity, and wisdom. In the next reflection, we will explore something equally unsettling: why intelligence alone is not enough to live well, and how many brilliant minds quietly sabotage their own peace. Remember, you are not a stranger in this universe. You are one of its necessary expressions. Until the next video,